Welcome to the Why podcast.
where we discuss mindful learning in the virtual space.
And today we are so thrilled to have our special guest and elite founder, Meghan Freeman. Before we get started, Meghan, I have some words from a colleague and a friend that I wanted to share. She said, Meghan Freeman is the inspiring CEO and co-founder of Elite Academic Academy. Under Meghan's visionary leadership, Elite has thrived, earning prestigious recognitions such as the Marzano High Reliability School certifications at levels 1 and 2. One of Meghan's greatest legacies is her unwavering commitment to closing achievement gaps for students. Our ability to close these gaps is, in many student subgroups, outpacing both county and state level gains. That impact was recognized when Elite was named a California Distinguished School. Meghan has helped redefine what's possible in a non-classroom based model, proving that innovation and flexibility can drive exceptional student outcomes. Meghan invests heavily in the professional growth of all staff because with that investment, those achievement gains wouldn't be possible. She brought EliteX to life, launched the CEO think tank, and sought out nationally recognized consultants to guide us through transformative work like the sciences of hope and mattering. She also provided robust, in-person professional development experiences that empower every team member to grow, reflect, and lead with purpose. Thanks to her belief in the potential of her team, many of Elite's current leaders began as teachers and have been encouraged to step into leadership roles, driving innovation and student success at every level. As Meghan prepares to embark on a new adventure, we celebrate not just her accomplishments, but the enduring impact she leaves behind: a strong vision, a clear purpose, and a thriving school community. Meghan Freeman is truly shaping the future of education, and her legacy will continue to guide and inspire us for years to come.
You
And that
guys
comes
are great.
from yeah. And that comes from your friend and colleague, Dr. Laura Spencer. And I mean, they're like those words resound, I think, with all of us and across our organization. So thank you for being here today.
I'm so honored. Starting and founding Elite has been one of the greatest joys of my life. I knew as a public educator, this is my 20, almost my 26th year serving and being a part of students' lives. And I knew that when I started Elite, it was an opportunity to do things different and within the confines of all that we're required to do by the state and the federal government. Being able to be innovative and creative is at the very center and the heart and passion of what I am and how I lead.
I am going to piggyback on that, Meghan, with the first question. Tell us about, well, it's not a question, but tell us about your journey to Elite.
So much has happened to Elite. Well, I was, called to Elite on many levels. I was a classroom teacher, multiple grade levels in the elementary school for over 10 years. Held leadership role, was named Teacher of the Year in my local school district, which was always an honor as it recognized my work in serving students in the classroom. Really had so many role models in that space that I still look up to this day, leaders and that came before, and I really do stand on their shoulders as a leader. Transitioned to the administrative role, wore multiple hats in a small school district where I learned about charter schools. Saw and was very drawn to the charter school movement. As a traditional public educator, charter schools were seen as competition to the traditional environment. And sometimes there was a negative connotation to charter schools. And so I was interested to learn more. Ideally, my first goal was to be a superintendent. And I thought because California believes in school of choice, I as a future superintendent should learn about school of choice. And so I was lucky to be in a small school district where I actually oversaw many charters. I was responsible for helping some close, getting people who were doing the right things to doing the wrong things to do the right things. I was able to see the authorization process firsthand. I was able to see why parents were choosing different environments for their students. I was able to see and experience declining enrollment that many of the traditional schools are seeing, and see how when a charter school has a particular mission and vision, a family may choose to have their child attend something different. I saw the passion of people who were not traditionally in the public ed sector leading schools. I saw innovative business people with just an idea having successful charter schools. And then I learned about the non-classroom based world, which to me was very foreign. Someone who was from a classroom or a traditional experience, the idea of having a successful model learning from home. We have a lot of alternative ed programs in the public ed sector, often for students who struggle in the traditional environment. They may be credit deficient, need to recover credits, maybe some for home hospital students that, unfortunately have sickness or illness as part of their life, or may have temporary home hospital, or students with disabilities that need a specific setting that's more appropriate for them to receive free and public and appropriate education. But I never really thought about general education in the non-classroom based setting. I had a personal loss in my life and was in a position where I needed a change. And because of my relationships with the charter sector, I was able to jump into the non-classroom based world. And I was able to learn, the good, the bad, and the ugly of charter. I saw so much about charter. It is the business of school. So charters are non-class, are non 501c3s, nonprofit benefit corporations. So there's a level of business. People need to choose your school. And to me, that was innovative and interesting because as a public educator, you lived in my zip code, you came to my school. There was, the marketing was just the local mom next door, saying, what teacher do you have this year? It really, the idea of having school of choice, me growing up was just not, as someone who couldn't afford private schools, the idea of having other public schools to attend was really foreign. And so it was very exciting to learn and grow as a human in the charter space. And when I was with Elite, before I started Elite, I had an opportunity to see how a board and a leadership were running a school, and I felt, well, if they're running a school, why aren't I running a school? And so really took some time to consider that. I actually was in the charter space and was going to go back to the traditional space, but decided with some tenacity and some grit that I should mortgage my home and I should leverage my experience and connect with peers that I believe understood the school choice movement, which wasn't always popular. And we aligned and started Elite. And it was started in my garage with a wish to do something different. And I couldn't have dreamed a better situation. So much hard work. So many people believed in who I am as a human and as a leader and took faith in me and ended up coming in and supporting me. And those people, the people who came in at the beginning, helped to shape this school just as much as I did. And really helped to bring the vision to life. And from where Elite started to where Elite is now, has been a lot of hard work. Many of us wearing multiple hats to get us through the day. People stepping up to lead that might not have been comfortable leading because we needed someone in that space. So much sacrifice, time away from family. People think, schooling from home or working from home is easier. And I would say in many ways, it's a lot more challenging. A lot of self-discipline goes into being able to balance working from home and doing a good job, self-discipline and perseverance when your commute is down the hall to separate and actually have a life outside of our world. But Elite and founding Elite and the team of people who believed in me is one of my largest accomplishments. I'm so, so proud.
And we're happy we're here too. When we think about the qualities of Elite, one that really stands out is innovation. So as a leader, how do you create or establish a culture of innovation?
I think it's important to remember students first. So whether you're talking about bringing in a creative tech tool or allowing for the school to have a holistic look at what's going well or what's not, it's important as any leader to have your central focus. And a lot of people talk about having students at the center of all that they do. But there's another thing to walk the walk. And so when you're looking at innovation, you need to answer a question as to why. Why would this particular tool, like let's talk about AI or even VR, which we've incorporated at Elite in the last year, why is this good for students? And sometimes it's a conduit from the adults in the room, where it might help a teacher better personalize a journey for a student. This is where AI could come in and transform the ability for our teachers of record, specifically in special education, aligning goals and objectives to experiences in an individual education plan. It helps the teacher become or have the ability to personalize down to the granular in minutes, where before in my life, when you had 33 kids in your classroom and you were differentiating, it was on me to come up with all of the ideas, and hours of my life to separate each reading group to make sure the kids were getting what they needed. So now these tools, I mean, it's unbelievable. You can get these lessons in 5 minutes. And so giving me as an educator more time to build and foster that relationship with the student so they access it. Or is it directly for the student? Is it important? Maybe you have a child who struggles to attend, whether it's in the traditional setting or the non-classroom based setting. Will this innovative tool or idea help them increase engagement? So it's really important with any level of innovation. There's a lot of dreamers. We all want to dream. But in order for it to become a reality, you've got to have a central focus point. And it is important in education that focus point is always the student. And even in the CEO think tank, when we were looking at the whole school, we were doing a SWOT analysis of the school, and it wasn't me doing the SWOT analysis, it was the team doing a SWOT analysis. And when we looked for opportunities and threats in our school, we looked for strengths and weaknesses within our school, we were also looking with a lens of, how am I going to solve this problem? And there were lots and lots of innovative ideas and solutions to solving the problems, but the ones that stuck were the ones that had the students at the center of the solution. For example, looking at Aubrey, right? Even though that's an app that was improving communication across the non-classroom based world, when you can't walk down the hall to come visit Meg in her office because I'm at my home, it's important to have avenues of communication that are streamlined. That process is still in the works, but the teachers now are able to have a really good holistic view of everything that's going on with the student in one snap and one shot. It's unbelievable. So even though the tool is really for the educator, the end result is the student is going to have an informed teacher of record, an informed SAI, an informed content teacher, making sure they're making the best decisions on behalf or for or with that student. So with any innovation, why is it necessary? And what steps are you taking to ensure, number one, you are implementing it with fidelity? So the other piece of that is timing. Sometimes there might be a really great idea for an organization, but the organization isn't ready for implementation because depending on what the innovative idea is, there might be some foundational steps that need to happen first. So I've seen a lot of leaders with wonderful innovative ideas that forget about timing and looking at staff and organizational readiness. Is Elite ready for this idea? And if I knew in a year or two that it would be ready, I would take the steps now to do training, to do professional development. That's how Elite X was born and how Elite X has turned into what it is today. Yes, there was a level of let's try this out, and in some cases you're able to throw the hypothesis out there, knowing it's a pilot, knowing that the team is going into with trial and error to come up with a solution that would be maybe long term. So organizational readiness is really important. Why are you doing it, and is your organization ready for it? And how are you proving that this tool is worth it? So with any type of innovative idea, you have human and fiscal impact. So whether it's the humans on the other end who are spending their time to make this a reality, or it's me going to the board to ask for fiscal support to make sure that we are getting the money or the monetary needs behind it, there needs to be a foundational goal and objective. So with Aubrey, for example, the goal was, are teachers using it? And I would say right now it's in the pilot phase. Going into 25-26, as Aubrey is becoming more sophisticated, the goal for each department should be using it with fidelity and seeing if Aubrey can continue to improve communication, because there are up to 9 adults with one child at any given moment. And so making sure that all of the adults have the same amount of information is going to help the experience in theory. So in practice, it's making sure that you're taking those hypotheses and measuring success. So you could have an innovative idea that falls flat. So you need to be able to also get rid of the things that aren't working. So not being fearful of trying, but also don't keep adding on innovative ideas to your wonderful staff without releasing some of the ones that aren't working. So being innovative is very complex. It is being open to new ideas and how to solve problems, but it's being very mindful of why you're there. Is the organization ready? And once you do implement, does it work?
I'm
It's
just gonna
incredible.
piggyback
Yeah.
really quick. Elite X was definitely a worthwhile thing to go for. I know all of us have found that so like really life changing, not just
Yes.
as educators, but as people. Like I've heard DL say it, she's changed as a person. I feel the same way because yeah, we really had to do a lot of like looking in, um, and I think that that can change a person for the better. So
I
that's been amazing.
I love that. And just for those that don't know, Elite X is over 180 hours of professional development on top of a hardworking educator. And it's about metacognition. It's about going in and looking at yourself as a human and figuring out how you learn so that you can be a better educator for your students. And so to me, that's a piece that education is missing, where education is always really about outcome. How are you doing on your CASP? What's your proficiency rate? What's your percentage of fluency? It's always very targeted, but there's a lot of research and you do a lot of work in your credentialing program. But as you become more mature in the field, it's about revisiting those pieces and understanding who you are. And I think a lot of times we're expected to understand our students, but how we come to the table as educators is just as important as how your students do come to the table. And I think that Elite X allows you to just take the time to figure out who you are so that you can then see, oh my gosh, Meg, you never stop talking. You need to let your kids talk. So you have to look at, but if you don't acknowledge those things as an educator and really make a conscious effort to allow for students to have more talk time, wait time, be the facilitator in the room, not the one in control. It's hard when you've had trend upon trend and year upon year of doing it exactly opposite. So it is one of the greatest. I really think Nisha and her awesome team at AI Innovators to who have done such a great job with me and Dr. Laura Spencer and Ashley Kirken-Haynes in taking a vision that started in my house during COVID when my kid was playing synthesis. And I saw for the first time the 6 C's being actually played out on a computer. And synthesis is a leg of Astronova that Elon Musk started for his children. You know, he has lots of children. So he created a school for his kids. And one of the creations out of it was a program called Synthesis, where students from all over the world were playing games. And I got to see, and it was a 9 month wait list for Lucy to get on. And so Lucy was on finally during COVID. I was like, oh, good, something for her to do. And I was so impressed with the ability for the kids to be able to be thrown into a productive struggle and seeing them bring, collaboration and communication and critical thinking and seeing it tangible for the first time when some of those skills, those softer skills we're working on teaching kids are hard to measure. And that's where we're so thankful for the next level partnership. Synthesis at the time was not partnering with schools. So I was like, how am I going to bring this to my staff? And the best part about Elite X, I'm so happy the kids are using next level, but I think the adults got more out of the next level gaming than anybody because I remember how frustrated people were with me. Why are you making me do this? And this is annoying, and people are talking over me. And it was amazing to see the process of the adults in the room going through the next level process and the gaming and the 60s and how some adults were really inclined to capture and be a part of the 60s and others actually had to work to solve some of the issues to allow for others on their team to have voice and participate. It's been awesome.
I
It's been
loved the
incredible.
games. Yeah,
Uh,
I enjoyed those.
And it really does. These games, I mean, we call them games, but they do give you so much opportunity to reflect on how you think and how you operate. And it's really important for a teacher to understand that about themselves, as you said, Megan, so that they can take that understanding to their practice. One of the things that came out of Elite X was the Teaching with Intention guide. Our actions impact students, and sometimes that impact is giving a student an opportunity, and sometimes it's taking an opportunity away. And it just that idea of teaching with intention, what you're describing is innovation with intention, leadership with intention. And I see that work through your leadership, and I think it's really important. I want you to, going back to Elite X, just from your perspective, tell us the story of Elite X. You've alluded to what drove you to it, but how do you see it? Like if you're telling a friend after work, happy hour, like what is the story of Elite X?
I think that we're in this technological revolution. And I think that we as educators are expected to prepare our students for their future, but the future is changing so fast. And I didn't even have a cell phone until college. So I didn't grow up with technology in my home or part of my life on a daily basis, yet I'm leading a school that's supposed to be technologically advanced, that's supposed to be preparing students for the future. So we're in this really interesting phase. This actual generation of educators is a lot of them who've been around for a minute are in my boat, where they've spent maybe half of their life with technology, but not the beginning or the forefront years of their life in technology. So I knew there was a problem. This is where innovation comes in. How am I going to solve it? The problem is I need to be able to invest in my teachers. And I think as a public educator for years, professional development was few and far between. And I was not thrilled with the one and you're done professional development or 30 minutes on a Friday and kind of only being able to scaffold or reinvent it, very sporadically throughout the year. And so I started looking into Fortune 500 companies. I'm like, because we're in the business of schools and because I was lucky enough to be able to be a part of a charter school and start a charter school, I knew there was a responsibility of looking at this from a business lens. And this is one of the big pieces I've learned as someone who is a charter leader, is the business side. And so looking at best practices in businesses, what are Pepsi doing? How are they successful? And a lot of their CEOs receive consistent training. Consistent. They are getting mentored or coached on a daily, if not weekly, level for years on end, and it's never ending. And so I thought, well, what if we have a cohort? And then I was looking at Harvard, and everybody knows Harvard fellowships are a huge. It's something that people strive for, they apply for, many don't receive. But a fellowship in and itself means you're a part of a cohort on a common mission towards a goal. And to me, that's where the fellowship came into play, where I want to create a fellowship, but along with this fellowship, I want consistent coaching. And it had to be around the idea of changing pedagogy and what pedagogy is in the non-classroom based world. The non-classroom based world is often misunderstood, and I do believe is the future of learning, this blended model where students are going to be engaging in online learning and also have personalized in-person support. I think is the best of both worlds, and I see the future of education seriously pushing and leaning in our direction. But when you look at the amount of research out there on non-classroom based instruction, you saw it's very minor. It's becoming more popular now after COVID, so that's a good thing. So I hopefully a lot more research will come. But ideally, for me, the goal was how do you teach well in a non-classroom based world, in a virtual environment? And what does that mean? And how are we bringing the 6 C's in our professional development to life? How are students communicating, collaborating, critically thinking, and so on? Because we know those skills are allowing for our students to be successful in a future that we don't and cannot predict right now. And so Elite X was born out of a need for that. And my other need is I have seen as a leader, administrators come and go. And when administrators come and go, it's so important for me to have the teachers lead the charge. So if I were to come in and drop professional development and it was my way and how I did it, then as soon as I leave, what goes with me? All of those things. So for me, when developing this, and the vision of it was to give and empower the staff to give and empower the teachers because you are boots on the ground and I needed to get out of your way. So it was actually modeling facilitation and modeling you being in control as educators of what the definitions are. Teachers oftentimes are handed curriculum and said implement, and here's the professional development. I'm saying, no, you guys, I have PhDs, I have master's degrees, I have people that this is their second career and have a significant experience in the arts and the industry that are smarter collectively than any book is. And so I said, hey, educators who've done all of this work, I'm going to give you resources and tools to help you and challenge you, but you are responsible for creating the our rubric, our guide. And it was hard. It was not easy. And it's living. And it's not something that ever just stops. It's not done. It keeps changing. So I truly love the fact that Elite X is encompassing the best practices, I believe. The organization was ripe and ready. We didn't have a choice. AI was coming and here. So we started. We piloted it with the first group. And now we're on what, year 4? And ideally, eventually, the goal is for Elite to own it 100%. Where Elite has teachers that are natural coaches that would be coaching on a consistent level in each academy in special education, where it would be so infiltrated and so part of the culture that what you received in Elite X continues consistently with your time here. And that's going to take time to develop that capacity and to allow for teachers and educators and administrators to fall into that role. So I see the consultants being on for a few more years, but Ashley will lead that charge and Ashley will know when that time is. But ideally, I see Elite owning all of Elite X, where you will have internal people facilitating, coaching, and guiding, just like we had our awesome consultants doing for you guys. Hopefully, I answered that probably a lot
No,
more.
no, it's beautiful. And I actually want to just highlight part of your answer. So like the one and done professional development, there's a ton of research that shows that that doesn't impact the student. It doesn't come back to the classroom. That long-term coaching and accountability is pivotal to this process. And really, I want to highlight the video clips. Having to create the clips, having to be brave, having to step outside of your comfort zone and try something, and then take that clip to your coach and say, "Hey, I tried it. What do you think? This is what I think." Go over it, and that so much growth, I think, came from that process of trying it, filming it, looking at it, right? And bringing in that metacognition. But also, it created this beautiful opportunity where I can go into DL's classroom by looking at her clips. We said it earlier, I can't just pop into your office, I can't pop into DL's. So this makes it so I can pop into people's classrooms, see what they're doing, and now I have the expertise of 30 teachers instead of just me trying to like flail and figure things out as I go. So that's a really big part of it, I think, is those video clips and that coaching and that accountability and community it created has
And that's
been really
it.
wonderful.
The teachers demanded the Moments Library that you guys are creating as part of professional development. I think, you're looking at a problem with Elite X is that the teachers that are coming into the culture new have a lot of catching up to do for the teachers that have been in this system. It's not easy to transform into an Elite X teacher. It's a lot of hours of work. So how are we going to speed up some of the process? And because we were thrown in productive struggle to figure it out. Well, now we have a team of people who figured it out. So now the challenge is, how do we support and help new teachers that are entering into Elite that need to understand what the twig is and how to implement it appropriately? And yeah, it's based on the instructional rounds model. And when you have facilitators or coaches, even in the seat-based setting, and you have a non-threatening peer that is able to really kind of open your eyes and let you see inside you. I think, the beauty of our model is that we always are on Zoom, so it's easy to record. I think the challenge maybe in a seat-based setting is you're relying on the human subjectivity to be able to give you feedback. And so we have feedback loops here built into our model that's consistent. And when you're able to go in and watch yourself and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't let any of the kids talk the whole time. You make a conscious effort going in the next time to do a better job. And you learn that failure is a huge part of this job. And it's okay to fail. As your leader, I failed so many times. I wasn't perfect. There was not, I really call it failing forward. I tried something and went, well, that one didn't work very well, but I'm not going to give up and I'm going to try again. And I think for some, as educators, there's that superhuman cape that you put on, almost like the Mary Poppins version of educators, where you are just the expectation and the cultural norm is you are to be perfect and you are to be all knowing and all powerful, and in any given moment you are to have the answer. And it's just that's the culture. I know it permeates really strongly in the elementary levels and also through the high school levels, and it's impossible to do that. And so when you retrain your mind and your norms into looking at yourself honestly, or whether through the eyes of your peers, and you're open to constructive feedback, it's so important to be open to someone telling you, well, have you ever thought about it this way? And it's not very comfy. You actually sometimes feel like terrible afterwards because you're like, oh my goodness, I never realized how much I do that. And, but that's the beauty. How are you going to grow? That productive struggle, we're modeling it for you. And if we're putting that in the educators into that productive struggle space consistently and asking them to grow, there's no there. Elite X is never done. Your goal is to always find an area and work to improve it. Every single year, we all can grow. And the same goes for our kids. So if you're looking at this model, you guys made it so much better than the vision and the dream that it was. Its results astronomical. I can't wait for you to see the white paper. It should be out in the next few weeks. Anna and I worked significantly hard on it. The results speak for themselves. Year over year, students that were at Elite have significant increased results based on our Elite X model, our closing of achievement gaps. This year, once it's released, Lucerne, which has more unduplicated students, which are students functioning in the poverty level, than Mountain Empire, but looking at 56%, I believe, might be 55, grew 14 points in math. That's a huge result, where math tends to be the lowest proficiency rate in the country. Our teachers going through Elite X are challenging assumptions, working within the confines of standards, but at the center of what they're doing is personalizing learning for students first. And a byproduct is we're seeing proficiency rates increase. Our focus is the kids. And it's hard to personalize for kids. But when the kids are at the center of all you do, the system is built with the teachers in mind and giving you autonomy and authority to develop and create and fail and productively struggle and have the space where that's all okay. Save the money. Make sure that teachers' professional development is at the center of your budget. Elite spends about $250,000 per school a year on professional development. It's necessary, especially right now. So important that you have tools and resources. When I didn't grow up with AI, it's not something that I'm super comfortable with all of the time, but the kids are. So if I'm responsible for making sure they are prepared for their future, I need to have consistent tools and resources to go to make sure that I am ready so that my kids will be ready.
Now, I want to go back to what you said about the coaching. That was really an invaluable part, was the coaching when you said it lets you see you. And that's just, when you sit with that statement for a minute, that's a lot, just letting you see you as a teacher, as a person. Yeah, that makes a big
Yeah.
difference.
And I know we were definitely empowered through Elite X. This wouldn't exist. This podcast wouldn't
Yeah.
exist without that empowerment and just kind of like letting us run with. And like honestly, this was like the synthesis of everything we learned. We synthesized it into this, and we hope that this is useful for teachers to watch and kind of glean some of what we learned and what their peers have learned from Elite X. But
And you touched,
and
oh,
my
sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, go
I'll
for it.
just say you want to touch on that, like it can be uncomfortable, right? To look at yourself, look at your teaching, watch these clips. Um, but you develop a muscle for being uncomfortable and you develop this mindset of, yeah, right, there's something I can do different there. I can improve this. And it just becomes reflexive. It starts out really kind of awkward and cringy and like, but it becomes a reflexive part of your practice.
Yeah, I think David
Uh,
Goggins said that. He made that famous. I think that I can't remember if it's the amygdala or what part of your brain actually, when you have negative experiences, and he used the cold plunge as an example. And I was like, oof, nobody wants to go in for a cold plunge. But Elite X is kind of like a teacher going in for a cold plunge, right? Where you're going in for a few minutes and looking at it, and it's uncomfortable. But ultimately, the benefits for you and your teaching and the student experience are exponential. So.
So my next question, you've definitely been touching on